Here we have our portable e-tanks. A portable e-tank may be used for portability as well as for backup oxygen purposes in case your oxygen concentrator were to fail. What we have here is an oxygen O2 regulator, which is also a continuous flow regulator. Here you have a wing nut on the back side of your regulator, which will tighten and secure your regulator to your cylinder or your e-tank. You will have a gauge here which will display the amount of compressed oxygen that remains in your cylinder. You have here a spout where your oxygen tubing will be connected to, and then you have a liter flow dial in where to set your prescription or your liter flow. On the inside of your regulator, you will see there will be 3 prongs. Okay? Those 3 prongs there are the 3 prongs that you would align with the holes on the top of your cylinder. So if you look at the cylinder here, you will show 3 holes. And then inside your regulator, you have 3 prongs. On the larger of the 3 prongs, there is a brass washer with a rubber seal. This is your seal washer that will secure the regulator to the tank and prevent it from leaking. This washer would always need to be secured and in place at all times when the O2 regulator is being connected to a tank. And that fits around your prong as such. So our seal washer is in place. We have our E-tank cylinder here. We have our 3 prongs. We're going to slide our regulator over that, guiding the 3 prongs into place.
Show it again. Good.
Line the prongs up. And then secure your wing nut on the back until it's secured. On the top of your tank, and there are 2 different styles that you may come across, may have a toggle key in order to open and close the valve on your E-tank cylinder, or you may have a cylinder that looks as such without a toggle. Okay. For those cylinders that do not have the toggle to open and close your valve, you will need the plastic O2 tank key. The O2 tank key has a rectangular hole at the one side of it. That rectangular hole will fit to the top of the cylinder, and then you can follow the instructions: left to open it up and right to close it. Every time you apply your regulator to your oxygen cylinder, at first it will display 0 on the gauge. As you open your valve, or to let the oxygen into the regulator, then your needle will go up, displaying the amount of oxygen that is stored in the cylinder. You do not have to continue to open this valve until it stops. You just need to do a quarter turn or half a turn, enough to get the oxygen flowing into the oxygen regulator. Once you show that your needle has displayed the current contents of the gauge and the cylinder, then you can go ahead and connect your tubing. You may take your 7-foot oxygen tubing, which will have a female connection on one side. This female connection will connect to the male spout that protrudes from your O2 regulator. After your nasal cannula is applied to your regulator, you may go ahead and set your prescription dial to the proper prescription required. Once again, if you're unsure if the action is being delivered to your nasal cannula from your E-tank cylinder, you can try the cup of water method, where you would grab a cup of water and then place the nasal cannula into the cup of water, submerging it to see if you see any bubbles. There we show we do have bubbles, so we do know that oxygen is being delivered all the way through to the nasal cannula. This here is an E-tank cylinder with a continuous O2 regulator. The reason we emphasize on continuous is because the oxygen will continuously flow out of the cylinder through the regulator unless the prescription dial is set to 0 after being used. If your control dial is not set to 0, your cylinder would run continuously until it is empty. If your oxygen cylinder is going to be used or stored only for backup purposes, you always want to store it in a well-ventilated area. Keep it out of direct sunlight, away from any heat sources. Do not smoke or use of open flames where oxygen is being used or stored. If you look here, our regulator still displays that we do have some contents in the regulator or oxygen stored in the regulator. If the concentrator backup tank or the oxygen backup tank is being stored, for safety reasons, you want to make sure you turn your valve closed to prevent the O2 cylinder from any leaking, as well as bleed out any excess oxygen that was left in the regulator by simply turning on your O2 oxygen liter flow dial until your needle has gone to 0. Once it has gone to 0 at that time, you may place your dial back on 0 and then store your tank for further use. If you have more than one tank and you only have one cart space available for the tank to be stored, you want to store any tanks that you have already flat on the floor. If they are flat on the floor, there is not a chance for them to be able to be knocked over, causing a safety situation because they are already laying flat. Otherwise, always store your cylinders in an upright position in the cart or against a wall that is secured with chains. Do not secure, or straps, ratcheted straps. Do not secure any cylinders with any type of bungee cords, because bungee cords do have elasticity, and if there's too much weight on it, it may cause the tank to bounce back and maybe cause a safety situation. Do not transport any oxygen cylinders in any trunks of the car. Always keep them up front in the well-ventilated area.